Fantastic Four and Superman could be in trouble. The Hollywood trades are putting out alarm bells saying the superhero genre could be coming to an end. At the same time, Marvel now appears to be confirmed, putting out test screenings of Fantastic Four. Stuff leaking out there, some good, some bad, and some that could make audiences quite sad. Meanwhile, delays for Doomsday. Folks, we've got the news. We'll bring it your way right now. Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Pro Channel. It is Friday, TGIF. We're happy to have you joining us as we get ready to party. And NDA Andrew has returned. He is the hypersonic secret keeper of America. No, indeed, the world. Hello, Mr. Rippaverse. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Eric's Mr. Rippaverse. I'm maybe Mr. Rippaverse Light.
Rippa Jr. Can we call you Rippa Jr.?
Sure, I'm Netflix Rippa Jr.
There you go. Well, it's good to have you back, Andrew. It's been way too long, and I was very excited when we made this happen. I know that you guys are busy over there. Success after success after success. It's amazing. But thank you for taking a few minutes to walk us through the superhero genre, of which you are an expert, sir.
I know a thing or two about a thing or two.
Folks, you can help us send out a thing or two all across the YouTubes by clicking the like button. Let's dive in with the first article. It's out of Variety. The reason this matters, ladies and gentlemen, is because Variety is a trade publication. Trade publications, what they are the mouthpieces for Hollywood. The executives essentially put out the narrative that they want you to believe, and they want people to say at the water coolers all across LA and the other entertainment hubs of the world. And so Variety is now saying something that is very, very interesting to us. We'll get to it. Here's the title. As comic book movies scale back releases, Marvel and DC look to this summer to decide the future of superhero cinema. It's by Adam B. Very. We'll give you the first paragraph, and then we're going to dive into the one that really matters just below. It says, it's easy, really too easy at this point, to proclaim that the era of superhero movie is over. At the start of this month, Marvel's Thunderbolts opened to some of the strongest reviews the Marvel Cinematic Universe has received in many years, and yet, by the end of May, it will have earned less domestically, only $174 million to date, than 2022's Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness did in its opening weekend. Last week, Marvel Studios announced that it was pushing Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars from May to December of 2026 and 2027, respectively, while pulling 3 other untitled Marvel projects set to open within the same time frame from the schedule entirely. And note, folks, we're hearing that it is likely, although not yet confirmed, that they're actually going to split Secret Wars into 2 films and turn this thing into a trilogy. The former decision will allow directors Joe and Anthony Russo more time to marshal 2 of the biggest, most expensive feature films ever made. In other words, this is risky. The latter decision is pure commerce, an easing of supply in response to the clear reduction in demand. All right, let's scroll down. Here's what we need, folks. It says in July, DC Studios and Marvel Studios are each taking striking creative risks in the hopes of reintroducing and revitalizing the respective cinematic universes. Superman, written and directed by co-DC Studios chief James Gunn, will be the first time the Man of Steel headlines a movie in which he is but one of dozens of other superhero characters, a decades-long comic book conceit that hasn't really been tested with audiences that don't know their metamorpho from their Mr. Terrific. Andrew, this article goes on to talk about how this summer is do or die for the superhero genre. If Avengers goes into production with a failed Fantastic Four, 3 flops from Marvel in 2025, that is a tough nut to crack at that point to get audiences back. And then if Superman fails, I don't even know what DC would do at that point. So we are now at the precipice. This is the cliff. Both sides win or all the wind is gone from the sails, and there's no guarantee that these movies work anymore inside this genre. Andrew, is that right? Is it wrong? And are you shocked that Hollywood, prior to the releases of the films, is putting that out there in the trades?
So that's a multifaceted thing. I'll take it one thing at a time. I'll actually start from the end with the trades actually putting this out there as the message. That is probably the most surprising thing. The potential, dangers of these movies not doing well is not surprising. It's the least surprising part about all this. But the trades, which historically will, carry water for the big studios, especially someone like Disney, that's kind of the bigger deal there, because traditionally they're the ones that'll ask, leading questions. They're the ones that a lot of times, even if say there's not some sort of like social messaging in a movie, they'll ask questions to directors, writers, actors, and whatnot in such a way that it makes those people want to respond as though there is. A perfect example of that would have been like the D&D movie, D&D Honor Among Thieves, or even Thunderbolts, or a number of other movies, right? So the fact that they're saying that these have the potential to be a massive, massive disaster for both studios is pretty shocking. Now, as far as the films themselves, DC's in a pretty precarious place here. I think at least everything that we've seen thus far with the Superman film, I think looks really strong and looks really positive. I'm still iffy on there being so many other heroes in it. We'll see how that pans out. But as far as just the Superman stuff itself, that looks like they're nailing it down pat, and Gunn's showing he knows what he's doing. Fingers crossed that remains the case. If that doesn't work out, DC's in a really bad place. If it does work out, I still don't know what DC does, because the rest of their slate is not particularly impressive or interesting to me as a primarily, though I like both companies, a primarily DC Comics fan. On the Marvel end, the MCU has had whiff after whiff after whiff for a while. And to that article's point, Thunderbolts was actually a really fun film. I saw it in IMAX with my dad opening day, or rather the early, Thursday release. It was a lot of fun. A lot of the stuff that people were saying was going to be in it wasn't in it. It was just a good, fun film. And it was the best, honestly, MCU film that I had seen since the first 3 phases wrapped. But the MCU has instilled this apathy and disinterest in their audience, not only the longtime comic book fans like myself or like Spencer or many other people in this sphere and just in general in the fandom, but even the general audience who just wants to go to a film to enjoy, something, have a good time, and have something to talk about because it's the thing that's being talked about. Nobody cares right now. And the result of that is nobody went and saw the film. So it doesn't matter that it was a good film. People weren't interested because, one, they decided to do Thunderbolts. Like, you want to talk D-listers? Marvel isn't in a place right now where they built up a lot of goodwill and padding in order to take that risk. They were able to take that risk with Guardians of the Galaxy back in the day because they were on a hot streak. And so they could, reach a little further into the barrel and say, okay, let's try something a little more risky. And it made the Guardians of the Galaxy, shocking as it was to me at the time as a longtime comic book fan, they became household names. You weren't going to do that with the Thunderbolts, not in this current climate with how you've been producing these films lately. And so unfortunately, the fact of the matter is you have to do a lot more films that people are saying are genuinely good. Not that the trades are saying are good, not that the, your Metacritics and your Rotten Tomatoes are saying you're good. No, that the people are saying they're good. And you're going to have to replicate that 2, 3, 4 times before people start seeing, oh, okay, well, more and more people seem to be on board with these films again. Maybe they finally corrected their business.
And as we look at the artistic direction they're going in with the Silver Surfer and with Galactus, Andrew, there are some concerns here that this Fantastic Four is just a little bit too out there. Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards was already a little strange. It's like everything they're doing, there's not a single selection that you look at and say, oh, yeah, that's by the book. Everything is some sort of artistic choice. And that's where I think there's some concern. It's like, no, you guys need a paint by the numbers at this point. You need a film that follows the source material and gets it right and is popular with the fans. You don't get to relaunch the Fantastic Four again. Now, that said, and we'll talk about Superman in just a minute, I want to talk about why I think the trades are putting out the alarm bells. And that, to me, the only way you can read that Variety article is preemptive alarm bell. Out of comicbookmovie.com, it says the Fantastic Four First Steps post-credit scene has leaked online following recent test screenings. Now, folks, for obvious reasons, we're not going to play that, and we're not going to tell you what it is. That would be spoilers. It would also be copyrighted. We're not going there. But Josh Wildling has the article here. It says, as we reported earlier today, Marvel Studios held a public test screening for the Fantastic Four First Steps in Los Angeles yesterday evening. There are conflicting opinions about why it took place. Some believe it's a sign that the studio is concerned the movie won't resonate with audiences, while others are convinced that Kevin Feige is simply trying to figure out what fans want after Thunderbolts underperformed. This situation with the test screenings, I don't look at test screenings a month ahead of a movie's release and think that that's a strong place for a studio to be in. And then we're also getting information out of this. We're getting leaks out of this. Folks, it's on the screen. I'm not going to say them out loud, because if I say them out loud, you might be spoiled on this and you might be interested in Marvel and the future of Avengers and all that. All of that said, Andrew, I'm more concerned, not less concerned, and I feel sorry for the Russo brothers for what they're having to do now, because this is just getting messy. Already, people were not interested in the Multiverse saga, and that was when Jonathan Majors was leading the Kang Dynasty stuff, right? Well, now that was already unpopular. Now they've had to throw all that away and like just make a detour, and you're doing the detour with RDJ as the bad guy, and I guess they thought that was going to be the draw. I don't know what they're going to do at this point, other than wrap up the MCU and reboot it. I don't see how. We've got reports right now, Andrew. Can't confirm these yet, folks. Got reports that Anthony Mackie, after this next Avengers duo or trilogy of movies that he's done as Captain America, I mean, we're really at a point now where Marvel have to course correct. There's no way around it. Do you agree?
I mean, let's be real here. They've kind of been in that position for a little while. This isn't breaking new ground, breaking news that's deserving of a major headline, outside of the fact that the trades are actually saying that they're in a bad spot finally. But all they're doing is saying what we've been saying for like 2 or 3 years. So congratulations on catching up. The multiverse thing, as a comic book fan, is a particular bit for me. I'm not going to go on a rant about that because it's annoying.
Is it good or bad? Is the multiverse good or bad?
I think it's weak. I think it's weak storytelling.
I
think
do
it's an excuse to avoid the consequences of writing yourself into a corner because you're creatively weak. You don't know what you want to do, or you don't want to deal with all the continuity that you built up in this space here. So you say, you know what? We'll just ignore all that. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to create a whole new world. I'm just going to name the characters the same thing. Maybe I'll change how they look, whatever. But I'm going to say, all right, well, this is the Batman story I'm telling, but it's not Batman
right
over here.
And the problem, I think, Andrew, is you can do that for a little while. Like you can dabble in it because it's fun to dabble in alternate realities and things, but you can't stay there. And Marvel decided they were going to stay there, and this was going to be the new norm. Well, it can't be the new norm because it reduces all the stakes in every character you have.
It was the gimmick for the MCU post Phase 3, and so they said, okay, we're going to do timey-wimey time travel stuff in Endgame, and then we're going to move on to multiversal stuff. And the only time it truly worked was in Spider-Man No Way Home, and otherwise mid-film that was propped up on the shoulders of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and Willem Dafoe and guys like that. It was propped up on the shoulders of almost everybody that wasn't part of the main MCU cast. So they're in a bad spot. It's not shocking that they're in a bad spot. I would like to see them course correct. I don't necessarily see them doing a hard reboot. If they're intelligent, though, they're going to, at some point, approach the people that need to be approached in terms of the cast of people who people actually care about. Make sure Chris Hemsworth wants to keep going. Give him something that is not Ragnarok or Thor: Love and Thunder, because he was not on board with those. He did not enjoy those films. Go to Chris Evans. And if people have their issues with him politically, that's perfectly fine. But as Captain America, he was phenomenal. People loved him. Whatever it is you need to do, you need to give people a draw. You're not giving people a draw to go into the movie theaters right now. I'm sorry. Like, I enjoy Florence Pugh. I enjoyed, actually, I loved Bucky, Sebastian Stan in Thunderbolts. I loved most of the cast. Red Guardian was absolutely hysterical. It was kind of the heart of the movie. But that's not enough of a draw for people to go in there. Again, certainly not in this current climate with where you're at in the state of your cinematic universe. People don't care enough about those characters because you're not giving them the characters that they do care about to some degree or another. You're not only that, but when you do give them, or at least the last few times you've given them characters that they care about, you've done them dirty. That's why Thor: Love and Thunder was a disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, and Captain America: Brave New World, if that's the movie that comes in before Thunderbolts, if you just destroyed one of your main characters, then they're not interested in going to see tier characters.
Yeah.
Andrew, I'll give you the final question here, and it goes back to Superman and James Gunn. What a time for James Gunn. Marvel has never been in a weaker position, at least not within the last 2 decades. He has the opportunity to take away the superhero genre, make it be all about DC, yet I don't know that that's what's going to happen. I mean, for James Gunn, he's either going to be the guy who puts the nail in the coffin of the superhero genre for a decade, or he's going to be the guy who revitalizes it, resuscitates it, and conquers Marvel finally. And there really isn't a middle ground there, I don't think. I think we're either going to get one of those two options.
Yeah, and to be honest, my hope would be that he does actually not necessarily put the nail in the coffin for Marvel, but I do hope that he really does revitalize the superhero genre. I don't want to go back to where we have 3 or 4 superhero films in a year. Like that was a bit much. That was a bit heavy. Like give me 1, maybe 2, 1 from each of the studios, or even give a year break in between. I don't need them every year. We can scale back, and that's honestly something the studios need to do. They need to scale back the quantity. They need to scale up the quality, and what they really need to do is scale back their budgeting. So if that means, hey, we need to focus on characters that we definitely know people are interested in, we definitely know people love, but we can tell stories with them that are tighter stories. Maybe it's between the 1.5 and 2 hour mark for a film. It's lower on the special effects. You don't need to worry about that as much, right? Because you're dealing with characters who don't need to deal with that kind of stuff. Your Batmans, your Captain Americas, Steve Rogers. Characters like Spider-Man, even if you're telling more street level stories, use characters like Kingpin and whatnot. Hammerhead, like you can do all sorts of things with a lot of these characters that allow you to play with a much more reasonable budget, and that'll help you manage your studio better. Superman needs to be a banger, not just do okay. It needs to be a banger. But again, even if it is, I don't know where you go from here, because nothing in their slate is particularly interesting. Like, okay, so they have a Batman and Robin movie coming, but I'm sorry, I don't know who they're casting. And so I don't really know if it's going to be somebody that can even pull it off, because the last casting was a little underwhelming. They're in a really bad spot, and I hope that they can correct that. My real hope would be that Gunn gets massive success with this Superman film, and then he maybe pivots a little bit on his slate, not necessarily throwing out everything that he wanted to do, but maybe shifting them in the totem pole a little bit, because I think you need to nail down the characters that are your draws first before you try attempting doing things with characters that most people, your general audience, movies are almost by definition a normie general audience entertainment medium, because they're easily accessible until prices continue to skyrocket and to get triple digits for a movie ticket. That's a whole other thing. But people that don't know who some of these characters are, they're not going to care. So they're not going to go see your film, because they're like, who's that? What's that? Don't care. Like, we're past the point where you can just slap DC. Well, DC was never there. We're past the point where you can just slap Marvel branding on something and the masses will go see it. And then you crap out $1 billion film. Congrats for being able to do that for a while. You're not there anymore. So I think Gunn is going to, one way or another, have to course correct and pivot on the slate if it's going to be something that's lasting, rather than a one and done flash in the pan. Maybe Superman makes $1 billion. I would love to see that happen, honestly. If it's a genuinely good Superman film, I would love to see it crack $1 billion. That would be wonderful. I love Superman as a character. It was one of my first 2 comic books that I ever owned. But the rest of his slate is super underwhelming. So that could be $1 billion success and make a ton of profit on net. But if the rest of your slate is something that's uninteresting to the general moviegoer, people still aren't going to go see the rest of it.
I'll say this in favor of Superman, Mr. Cornsweat, and everything I've seen regarding interviews with him and his knowledge of pop culture. Man, that guy's got it going on. I hope he's successful, and I wish Henry Cavill well as well. I'm not saying he's in the movie. I'm just saying many of you out there are quite disappointed that he's not Superman. Both of those guys, we wish well. And we wish well to the Rippaverse as well. Well. Andrew, tell us what's coming out from the Rippaverse in the coming weeks, months, and what you guys have planned over there. Big stuff.
Well, without getting into NDA stuff, the current stuff we have going on right now, Horseman #1 is actually closing today. So by Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett. It has done fantastically. And it's Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett. So I don't know what you want. They're a phenomenal dynamic duo over here. Creative powerhouses. The story is fantastic. If you like brutal street level vigilante characters, your Batmans, your Punishers, your Daredevils, minus the extrasensory stuff. That's your guy, and a lot of people agree. Yair 3 is rocking right now. Saints and Sinners, which is our first anthology release, is going on right now as well, and that's been doing fantastically. And we just launched the 4th issue of our Rippaverse magazine, and that's got a fun investigative reporting story written by the Saga sisters. We have a lot more coming down the line. And I can't wait for you guys to see it. And we're going to be at Dallas Fan Expo this weekend. In fact, after this recording, I'm going to be heading right over there.
There you go, folks. Get over there to the Dallas-Fort Worth area and be at the expo. You want to get to meet the Rippaverse crew and get a few copies if you can. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a joy joining you today. Click that like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts and tell us specifically what happens to the superhero genre starting in 2026. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Folks, until the next time we have the pleasure of spending time together, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
You know what? I don't even care this time.
Well, you should know that I'm preparing to...
Nope, I said I don't care. Whatever you're doing, I don't care.
You don't want to know that I'm auditioning for a Pro's new rock station on New Rock Radio?
Nope.
You don't want to know that he now has Vacation Radio and New Rock Radio on Prelude Studios, which used to be Vacation Radio but is now so much more?
Well, maybe.
You don't want to know that I purchased this guitar and these sunglasses using the credit card that you humorously labeled for emergency uses only?
Wait, what? You did what?
Oh, see, now you're taking interest in my passions and abilities. Okay, so Jose, you're sure that we ordered the $10,000 drum kit before Floral canceled the credit card?
It did, Miss Dripset. Check.
Nice. Okay. Oh, and the didgeridoo? That will increase in value so that Floral can send his kids to college?
Academia. Oh, that's it.
Why is there a didgeridoo on the front porch? I'm gonna bury that little troll.
Jose, Google how to play didgeridoo. We're gonna need to justify this somehow.